Around this time last year, I had the pleasure of attending the Vive Health Pitch Competition in Nashville, which focused on health tech innovation specifically. The format was pretty standard. Each entrepreneur or team had 2.5 minutes on stage to present their business idea to a panel of judges, and perhaps more importantly, to an audience that was filled with executives from major health systems and R&D institutions, experienced entrepreneurs, and leaders of private equity and venture capital, as well as legal consideration, obviously everybody's priority to impress. And then they allocated another 2.5 minutes to answer rapid-fire questions from the expert judges. This competition allowed visual aids like PowerPoint presentations, which were displayed on a huge screen. If you've seen the TV show Shark Tank, this was similar but different. Because this competition was focused on healthcare innovations and heavily centered on back-end infrastructure technology and enterprise solutions, it wasn't really conducive to sharing physical prototypes or demonstrations of the product the way consumer-facing tech and gadgets would, other than perhaps, an occasional screen-recorded demonstration of functionality broadcast on that very big screen. More importantly, very few, although not zero, of the participants use the bold, attention-grabbing techniques and gimmicks that are so popular on Shark Tank. That stuff may make for entertaining television, but you need to know your audience. And unless those kinds of goofy, daring stunts are authentically a part of your personality and they align with your brand image, you're more likely to leave the judges perplexed or uncomfortable if you go that route in a real-life pitch competition. That's part of the reason why this topic made it onto the legal consideration agenda, albeit a year after the fact. What can you do? Over the years, I've done more than my fair share of legal reviews of pitch decks, and somewhat absurdly, I've also created more than my fair share of pitch decks from scratch. As an aside, unless you truly have money to burn, your attorney probably should not be doing that kind of work. Have them review it to confirm legal compliance. Yes, please, absolutely. But as evidenced by the craptastic 90s era editing and design work that has now become a hallmark of this channel, we lawyers are not trained as graphic designers or as marketing experts. If you insist that we proceed despite this disclosure, we'll probably do it and we'll probably have a bit of fun with it. But you can find someone who bills out at 1/10 of our hourly rate who will do better stylistic work with a faster turnaround. Anyway, when I'm asked or when I overhear the question, hey, should we spice this up? The answer is most likely no. You may only have 3 or 5 minutes total on stage, so don't waste that limited time with embarrassing gimmicks that take time away from your ability to focus on your business concept, your target market, and your financial projections. Again, except in the very rare cases where you've engaged a marketing team that knows the rules so well that they can teach you how to skillfully break them, with a presenter that has natural charisma and the disposition to actually pull it off. Doing that makes you look amateurish, not cutting edge, even if the Shark Tank producers would have loved your shtick for reality TV. Now, this doesn't mean you want to subject the judges to droning pie chart purgatory either. Pitch competitions offer a great way for you to practice your pitch, make a lasting impression on prospective investors, gain valuable feedback on your product and business plan, and maybe even win funding. Participation is well worth the time and effort if you come away with substantive insights about your business and strategy. But you'll lose out on that opportunity if the judges feel like they need to help you course correct because your presentation was too unconventional, too boring, too unfocused, or even too focused on all the wrong things. So here are 5 ways to engage the judges and whomever else might be in that audience and to make the most of those 3 to 5 minutes. First, lead with the problem, not the product. At the Vive pitch competition, I could tell immediately when a pitch was hitting because I could literally see audience members nodding enthusiastically when the presenter described the problem that their product was designed to alleviate, and occasionally even nudging their colleague and exchanging glances like, yes, we were just talking about how, say, electronic health records are a nightmare in that department for exactly that reason. You've captured attention because you've shown that you understand a business or industry pain point deeply and that you are the hero that's going to fix it. It's simple self-interest. You have a solution to a real problem. It's natural to want to know more about what that solution is. This strategy was so successful that even when a presenter wasn't naturally comfortable on stage or the whole presentation was a bit formulaic, or both, leading with the problem was enough to keep me listening and engaged. Remember, at this stage, potential investors are buying your insight, not just your underlying technology. Second, your why now matters. Timing is everything in business, so investors want to hear not just what you're building, but why right now is the moment to build it. Did a regulation just change that creates a new industry need and opens a new market? Have consumer behaviors or market demographics shifted in your favor? Is there a new technology, like, say, artificial intelligence, which unsurprisingly was incessantly cited at the VEEV pitches, that makes your solution newly feasible or scalable? Or maybe the pain point that you're solving for has reached a breaking point in your industry. Now, with that said, don't toss around buzzwords in a misguided attempt to make yourself seem more current. At VEEV, it was understandable that everyone was talking about AI, except in the cases where it actually wasn't. You don't want a frustrated judge who is maybe a bit sick of hearing for the 10th presentation in a row that AI is changing everything to ask you, but what value does AI integration actually add here? Especially if you don't have a good answer. Whatever it is, make it clear that you're not just chasing a trend, you're capitalizing on a window of opportunity. Now, this leads into tip number 3. Tell a story, but skip the jargon. You might think industry buzzwords make you sound credible, but in a 5-minute pitch, clarity beats complexity every time. Investors aren't grading you on how many acronyms you can cram into a slide. They're evaluating whether they understand what you do, why it matters, and who it helps. Weaving a human story into the narrative of your pitch is more engaging than simply spouting off jargon and clicking through numbers and charts, although, of course, it is imperative that you have financial data and projections too. So ask yourself, what inspired the idea? Or who is struggling and how are you changing that? For what it's worth, sincerity and authenticity are critical if you're going to turn your answers to those questions into a story that's incorporated into your pitch presentation. The last thing you want is the judges and audience to be wondering, is the protagonist of this story even a real person, or is it just someone that their marketing team invented? A clear, relatable story that accompanies your data and strategy gives people something to care about, and when they care, they remember. But they'll also remember how uncomfortable they felt if you were trying way, way too hard to force them to care. Next, you need to know what success looks like. Whether it's user acquisition, monthly recurring revenue, or pilot programs, define key milestones for your audience, boast away if you've already hit some of them, and show a plan for how you intend to achieve the others over a given time frame. Because a great idea isn't enough. You need to show the judges that you know how to execute on it too. We've talked about this balance a few times in other videos. Even if your CEO has big, bold, brilliant ideas and can inspire and lead with ease, you still need that process and detail-oriented COO who knows how to implement those ideas into action and results. Mapping out realistic, measurable milestones will distinguish you from your less sophisticated competitors. You can't just say you're planning to go viral or make broad statements about steady growth. You need to show, okay, our subscription service had $10K monthly recurring revenue in the first fiscal quarter of this year. We grew it to $14K MRR last fiscal quarter, and here's how we intend to grow it to $20K MRR within the next 12 months. And it's great if you can share progress that you've already made. Mention early adopters, sign letters of intent, revenue, or even just a lengthy wait list. Just make sure that your legal advisor signs off on it and you aren't broadcasting anything that's confidential or NDA'd. Momentum signals credibility. Even in early stage pitches, vague optimism comes off as amateurish and underprepared, whereas specifics show that you're building something real. Finally, tailor the presentation to your audience. We're coming full circle here, but it merits reiterating. Your conservative industry group pitch competition is not Shark Tank. But let's speak about this more generally. Simply put, one size fits all doesn't work in pitches or pitch decks. The same business might be pitched very differently to a VC fund, an angel investor, a grant panel, or a strategic partner. And what wins in one room might flop in another. A consumer brand investor might care most about traction and customer acquisition. A healthcare investor is going to be much more focused on regulatory pathway, payer strategy, and legal compliance. That's why your friends at Legal Consideration ended up at that ViV pitch competition in the first place. Know what matters to your listener and lead with that. You need to speak their language, but don't assume that they speak yours. Do your homework in advance and then meet them where they are. Pitching is part performance, part strategy, and part knowing the rules of your space. Pitch competitions are a relatively low-pressure way to get some experience and some spectacular feedback from industry professionals who are there because they want to share their knowledge and to help you be better. If you are serious about raising capital, I'd suggest that you attend a few pitch events as an audience member before you ever get on stage. This will give you a sense of what works and what doesn't, what to say, and just as importantly, what not to. Watch other videos and read more content on this topic, get feedback on your pitch deck from trusted advisors, and then submit that entrance application. And whether or not you're bashful about public speaking, remember that the judges and the audience know that getting on stage and putting yourself out there is courageous and challenging, and that there's a learning curve to these things, and we're all truly rooting for your success. And hey, if you've made it this far, you're awesome. Please check out legalconsideration.com for all the latest on premium courses and opportunities to accelerate your own learning on all things law, business, and finance. And don't forget to like and subscribe for content on the topics that matter most to business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives.